Henry stood out significantly from the other patients at the psychiatric clinic. He was not irritable or confrontational. The man obediently took all the medications given to him by the nurses, helped the staff in the kitchen and the adjacent park area. However, his face instilled horror in everyone around, resembling something demonic and supernatural that he had encountered. It was something an ordinary person could not survive without consequences. Henry's mouth was open and twisted to one side, as if frozen in a silent scream of horror. His lips were dry and cracked, constantly drooling. The man's eyes were bulging and glassy. He still saw something indescribably terrible in front of him. Henry hardly blinked, which caused his eyes to become inflamed and red. The man was apathetic and indifferent to everything around him. He did not speak to anyone. Only in the middle of the night could you hear him screaming in an inhuman voice, sobbing in hysteria, and constantly repeating the same words. Son, my son, it's all my fault. I'm guilty. Forgive me. Forgive me. Even the clinic staff, people who had seen many insane and strange patients, flinched at these screams. Goosebumps crawled over their skin, and their blood froze in their veins. Among themselves, they said that it sounded more like the groans of a soul, piercing and profound, rather than a simple scream. They sympathized with Henry because they knew the history that had left such deep traces on him. Henry was an ordinary working man. He toiled at a local auto repair shop. His hands were covered in calluses and scars, evidence of the hard work he put into his job. At home, his beloved family awaited, his wife and son. Despite the grueling labor and long working hours, Henry always made time for them. However, the man had one peculiar trait. He loved pranks. Every time he played a prank on someone, he relished in the frightened expressions on people's faces. These were not harmless jokes and pranks. Henry always tried to scare people to the point where they would scream in fear, and the surprise would make them tremble. Henry's wife constantly scolded him for this. She grew tired of his childish antics, and believed it was time for him to grow up and behave more responsibly. None of her words had the slightest impact on the man, and eventually, his wife simply resigned herself to his foolish pranks. Time went on, and Henry grew tired of his old pranks, his jokes becoming more complex and elaborate. He constantly searched for new ideas on how he could playfully trick someone. For Henry, there were no limits. He played pranks on everyone. His colleagues, friends, family, and clients all became victims of his pranks. Once, as a man was driving to work, he passed by a large shopping center. Something caught his attention in the alley between the buildings. It was legs sticking out of a large trash bin. Henry stopped his car and quickly went towards his find. As he suspected, the trash bin contained the legs of a mannequin. After digging through the rest of the garbage, Henry found the other missing parts: the head, torso, and arms. They were all from different mannequins, different colors, and different levels of wear. This delighted the man, and he immediately came up with his new prank. Quickly, while nobody noticed, Henry retrieved all the parts of the mannequin and loaded them into the trunk of his car. Throughout the workday, he assembled his creepy creation. The man was very excited, already imagining the impact this horrifying doll would have. The mannequin had a battered, cut-up face. One of its arms was black, while the other was bent in an unnatural position for a living person. That same evening, Henry came home, had dinner with his wife and son, and then excused himself and went to the garage. He took the mannequin out of the car and placed it against the wall. Then the man rummaged through several old boxes and found a black cloak with a hood. Henry dressed the mannequin in it and put the hood over its head. The man was as pleased as a child. He took a few steps back to admire his horrific creation. The sight was truly terrifying, yet it seemed like something was missing. Henry returned home. His wife was watching TV, and their son had already gone to sleep. At first, Henry wanted to play a prank on his wife, but a wild idea came to his mind. He became obsessed with it. Quietly, he walked into the kitchen and grabbed the biggest knife. Returning to the garage, he placed the sharp knife in the mannequin's hand and lifted it. As if frozen with the knife poised to strike, he taped his mobile phone to the other hand. Now he was certain that the mannequin looked terrifying, and exactly how he wanted it. Henry picked up the mannequin and carried it into the house. Trying to move as quietly as possible, he went upstairs and entered his son's room. In the dim light, he saw his son sound asleep on his bed. Henry carefully placed the mannequin next to him. He imagined his son's reaction when he woke up and saw the horrifying mannequin standing over him, ready to strike with the knife. It would be incredibly scary. It would be the best prank ever. Satisfied and eager for the fun, he went downstairs and sat next to his wife to watch TV. After waiting for a while, Henry pretended that he couldn't find his mobile phone. "Could you call me, honey?" he asked his wife, beaming with happiness. "Another one of your silly pranks again?" she replied to him. "No, this time it will be my best prank ever," Henry exclaimed with a self-satisfied smile. Annoyed, the woman dialed his number. The phone emitted long beeps. Suddenly, someone answered the phone. They heard heavy breathing and strange rustling. After a few seconds, a monstrous scream echoed through their house. Henry looked at his wife. Her eyes widened in horror. She jumped off the couch and was about to run upstairs, but her husband stopped her. He laughed loudly and enjoyed what was happening. "What's so funny about this?" she asked angrily. "Our son became the victim of my brilliant prank," Henry smirked contentedly. "Wait, he'll come down himself and tell everything." They sat in front of the TV waiting for their son to come. But after 5 minutes of silence, both of them felt uneasy. "Hurry up and go check what's going on," his wife ordered. Henry smiled and went upstairs. He opened the door to his son's bedroom and peeked inside. The man froze, and the self-satisfied smile vanished from his face. Horror reflected in his eyes, and his face distorted forever. On the bed, he saw his son, lifeless, lying in a pool of blood. Instead of the boy's head, a mannequin head was inserted. The arms and legs were twisted in an inhuman position. On the wall above his body were large letters written in blood.
"A perfect joke, isn't it?"
The window in the room was wide open. The phone and coat were lying on the floor, and the mannequin itself was nowhere to be found.